Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies for the late start, but I'd like to welcome you to our weekly investor forum. We'll be jumping right into the company profile before we formally introduce you to our guest for this evening, Mr. Richard Pandui, President of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association and CEO of Seprod Limited. We encourage viewers to post their questions on social media and remember to tag us at the hashtag #MILInvestorForum. If you enjoy this program, be sure to like, share, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. We'll also be featuring a market segment at the end of the program, so be sure to stay in tune. I'm also told we'll be getting some giveaways from Seprod, so pay close attention. Seprod is the largest food manufacturing company in the English-speaking Caribbean. The company boasts more than 75 years' experience in the following activities: agriculture, investments, distribution of finished goods, as well as the manufacture and sale of biscuits, milk, and juices, among other things. Seprod and its group of companies continue to be innovators in the market. In 2015, Seprod started the retail packaging and export of Golden Grove pure Jamaican cane sugar, which has been available in Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Barbados, and Trinidad. In 2017, Jamaica Grains and Cereals, a member of the Seprod group of companies, upgraded its cornmeal plant in a joint venture with the Seaboard Corporation. This venture entailed adding a state-of-the-art flour mill with an investment valued at more than $3 billion. Seprod merged its two dairy processing operations, Surge Island and MIDL, in 2019 to become Surge Dairies. This has resulted in a best-in-class facility with significant volumes, driving the profitability of the business. I take this moment to remind you that if you're seeking to expand your portfolio or embark on your first investment journey, Mayberry Investments Limited can guide you in achieving your financial goals. Follow us on social media and visit our website at www.mayberryinv.com to learn more. Our social media handles should pop up somewhere on the screen. So now let's just introduce our guest speaker for this evening. Richard Pandui will tell you he's passionate about growing value and creating success stories. Over the years, he has demonstrated this with an illustrious career. From 2006 to 2010, he served as Managing Director of IGL, or Industrial Gases Limited. Afterwards, he went on to serve for 4 years as the CEO of Carreras Limited. Then in 2015, he became CEO of Seprod Limited, a role we now know he continues to fulfill to this day. Outside of his duties as CEO at Seprod, he's also the president of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association. He's also been a Justice of the Peace since 2013. Today, Mr. Pandui will give us an investor update on Seprod Limited. Welcome.
Thank you, Dan.
Richard, welcome. Thanks for joining us. And apologies for absence of our chairman, Christopher Berry, and our CEO, Gary Parrott this evening. Without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Richard so he can give us his investor update.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you to the Mayberry family for having me here, and to the investors. So, the question I get asked a lot these days is, you had a great year in 2020, in a pandemic year. What you did in 2020? So I just want to share with the investors. It really wasn't about 2020, it was a journey. And I want to take the time to show you our major milestones in the years preceding that.
Excellent.
So we started focusing on innovation. Innovation is part of our DNA now. And we value and we pride ourselves on exciting our consumers. You look at this product list here, whether it's in the dairy, whether it's in sugar, whether it's in wheat, we continue to innovate every day. Our pipeline is full, and we'll keep trying to find new products to excite not only our domestic consumers, but our consumers all over the world. We emphasize on export growth. Over this period, we grew our export from 0.5 billion to 2.2 billion. And in fact, 2020 showed a 62% growth over 2019. And we are looking for new markets everywhere in Latin America and Africa, and we're seeing opportunities. And the pandemic has actually created more opportunities due to supply chain disruption globally.
Excellent.
The other things that we try to focus on is also you mentioned it, our investment in our manufacturing infrastructure. The mill was one of the largest manufacturing investment in Jamaica in decades. A 50-50 joint venture with Seaboard. That's doing very well. Our dairy investment, that was particularly exciting. We had the opportunity, we bought the Nestle factory in Bogwalk. We consolidated the factory that we had in St. Thomas. And we have not only consolidated, we have upgraded and expanded. And it's an operation we're very proud of. I mean, it's a nice picture of my chairman there, PB Scott. Hi, PB, if you're watching.
I'm sure he is.
The next big thing we did was expand our distribution footprint. We bought the Face Commodity Limited.
Yes, yeah.
And this is something that we're so proud of. This is taking an 80-year manufacturing family and merging with something that's been 90 years. What a combination.
Excellent.
The brands that are represented, most people don't even realize. On the pharmaceutical side, we're in pharmaceutical.
Yes, yeah.
We represent Pfizer. We have Roche, we have Aleve, we have P.A. Benjamin. We have 6 pharmacies, Valley Drugs, which will expand to around 14 next couple of years. The merchandising side, we have Kraft, Mondelez, we have Brunswick, Huge, we have Ovaltine. I mean, in fact, in our factory in Jamaica, there are only 2 factories in the world that produce Ovaltine biscuit. One is in Singapore, the other is in Jamaica.
Excellent.
And of course, we have Surge, our flagship brand, Suppligent Betty. I mean, so we're just, it's amazing brands, amazing partners. I've told you about what we chose to do. It's also important when you're trying to expand and add value, you have to know what you shouldn't do.
Yes.
And that's a big part of Seprat's performance. We sold our bleach factory to Paramount. We sold our soap factory to Blue Powers, who are both doing an amazing job. We exited the sugar manufacturing business, which was a major cash burner and a destroyer of shareholder value. So we have done a lot of good things, and we have also chosen where to walk away from. So overall, in that 5-year period, we have invested in this country $23.5 billion in acquisition and capital projects. $23.5 billion. I'll challenge you to find any company in Jamaica that has made that type of investment in this period.
Impressive.
So the results that we have had coming to 2020, with exceptional items is that, well, I want to take out the exceptional item because investors, you have to take out the exception and look at the underlying operating profit performance. And so this is without the impairment cost of $300 million for Golden Grove in 2019 and the $700 million uplift in 2020 from the sale of one of our distribution property. So when you look at it, we have about a 16% uplift in revenue, a 79% uplift in profit. And shareholders have seen the benefit. Higher dividends have been declared.
Absolutely.
And the shareholders have rewarded us by actually pricing our stock at a higher value. So overall, the results, the underlying results, have delivered. And this is a result of a journey, not because of a one-year performance.
Right.
And that's the message I want to leave. So we're going to summarize that by just showing there, the positives, the dairy factory consolidation completed. First full year of exit from the sugar manufacturing business. Right. Strong household demand for pharmaceutical and food during the pandemic year. Mm-hmm. I mean, these are pandemic-resistant products in many ways. And the 62% growth in export. Those are the key pillars driving the performance. But it wasn't all good. We had some negatives too. I mean, the rains in Q4 created major infrastructural damage to the farms, which we are still recovering from, but we will recover better. Institutional demand fell off a cliff. The tourism industry, hospitality sectors are really important. Right. The schools closure and the enforcement measures obviously have a major impact on things like the juice line, the biscuit lines. And there's a higher operational cost that is now, I think, is going to be part of our normal cost going forward. As we look to protect our workforce, we had to separate shifts, more transportation, just a lot more investment to protect our workforce. And last year, we had a lot of foreign exchange volatility, which impacted the operation. So that was 2020, a decent year. So, for investors, we're going to do something that I don't think any company has ever done in Jamaica. We're going to tell you what 2021 is projected to be. We're putting it out there as a management team, and this is what we see. The assumptions for this year is that the first 8 months, January to August, we said are going to be very challenging, probably the most challenging for Jamaica since the pandemic started. Right. Notwithstanding what has happened to the tourism sector before. And this is actually materializing based on the additional travel enforcement from our major tourism source countries. The COVID-19 cases rising, which is having an impact on workforce availability. It's creating more enforcement, which we cannot argue with. I mean, we're where we are at until we have the vaccines. Supply chain challenges globally it's just amazing. There's a container shortage. Shipping rates have gone through the roof. all the commodity costs are at 4 to 5 year high, and they seem to just be getting higher everywhere. So we see rising prices, which also impact consumers' disposable income. There's a deterioration of credit quality. I mean, so that's also going to create a cash impact.
Yeah.
I think on the report I saw this morning saying that although loans have reached a record high, what is more worrying is that there's a 40% increase in loans that are not being serviced.
Yeah.
That is not good news. And but we see the vaccination program happening at pace in key markets like the US. I think by May they said they'll have vaccines for everybody. So we expect that there will be some normalization starting in September. And we expect to see a sharp recovery in tourism in the last quarter. We think there's huge pent-up demand for the entertainment sector, the hospitality sector, and we expect those to start coming up in Q4. And for us, we expect as a standard every year to be growing export by a minimum of 35% on the year prior. So we're putting our results out there, showing a 6% increase in revenue for 2021, a normalized net profit gain of 13%, moving our earning per share from $3.18 to $3.59. That's what the management has committed to the board to. And so this will add to my sleepless night, because not only does my chairman know now, but everybody in Jamaica knows so. So, and how will we get there? I want to quickly tell you that story. We're going to do it by talking about technology. We're going to embed technology in everything that we do. You know, e-commerce is one such platform that we have gone to. We launched our e-commerce platform last week. And what we have seen is that companies globally that have used this platform along with their normal marketing platform have seen an accelerated growth because people don't want to go into the trade. It also creates opportunity. Diaspora can click on to separateshop.com and send groceries to their family.
Excellent.
I mean, $4, $450 anywhere in Jamaica. We're using technology with our workforce everywhere because, you know, the pandemic has shown Jamaica that for a long time, we have operated behind the rest of the world when it comes to the technology.
Yes.
And this has now changed the way we're doing business. So we can do, you know, this is just what we're going to be doing going forward. On the farm side, we are going to, the rains or the droughts and the consistent thing is something we have to do. We have to now invest in climate resilient infrastructure.
Right.
To create our feed, to store it, to have, you know, ways to protect the calves in a better way. So, you know, and then more trained graduates. Jamaica has actually had an issue in farming because we've never treated farming in the way it ought to. We treat it as agriculture as something you can do when you have nothing else to do. Food security, food affordability is going to become a big deal going forward. It already is.
Absolutely.
And for Jamaica to grow, agri-processing is going to be key. You know, our distribution campus, which we have spoken about, so we bought Face and now we're consolidating all our distribution in one location of Marcus Garvey, so we're a major distribution location. That project will be completed by November. All our people will be in one place, and it'll give us synergies. All our training will be in one place. I mean, the benefits are obvious. We're very excited about that. And last but not least, I left this one, is our people. People will be a big part of achieving our output. And what we have been doing over the years is that we have been investing more in people with science, technical, mathematical background, the STEM graduates. Mm-hmm. We think it's important because Jamaica has had 30 years of no productivity growth. And one of the reasons that has impacted our ability to be competitive in the global market is our productivity, and we need to grow that. So Separate has said that this year, for example, we need to have a productivity gain of at least half inflation, projected inflation. So this year we're projecting to have a 3% growth in productivity.
Oh, excellent.
And we expect to accelerate it as we get the base going forward. Better gender balance. 2015, 25% women in our workforce. Today, we're at 38%. Interestingly, almost 50% of our leadership team is women.
Oh, excellent.
For youth, 42% in 2015 were below, of our population was below 40 years. Today, 62% of our workforce is below 40 years. So we're showing projection for the long term, for make sure we have leadership right through. We want to create a culture of high productivity and entrepreneurship, a culture of trust, you know, and care for our employees. We have a deficit of trust in Jamaica. Mm-hmm. And I think that we want to demonstrate to our people that we care for them and that the pandemic has made us realize also that the fact that the person who are necessarily the highest paid in your system are not the most valuable. So we are trying to flip the curve now to make sure that we embrace and empower our people. And on that note, I want to take a few seconds to express condolences to our former CEO, Ralph Thompson, on the loss of his daughter, Stephanie Scott. I mean, his grandchildren, Nicholas Scott, Sean Scott, are working in the business. And, this is what we do, our family. My chairman, we're having a discussion the other day, we're talking about what are the characteristics of us, we're Vikings, we're rough and hardy, we will fight ourselves. But at the end of the day, we're out there fighting every day to bring value to the business, bringing value to shareholders, bringing value to Jamaica, bringing value to people. And that's what we do. We're fighting every day to make Seprod special. And that's why I want to say at the end of everything we do, whatever we do at Seprod, it must be good.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Richard. We really appreciate that very informative presentation. And of course, we're going to expand, have a few questions we'd like to ask, to do a deep dive, have a better understanding. Folks, remember, again, we'll have a Q&A segment for those out on social media as well, too. So please feel free to give your questions. I'd also like to, Richard, we have some really great analysts at our organization as well, too. We ourselves did a bit of a analyst overview of the organization. So I wanted to show you, excellent, I wanted to show you what we have here. So first, we took a quick look at the stock price and how that's moved in recent times. And, believe it or not, this stock has gone from a low of $33, which makes no sense to me, to a high of 71. Today, it's trading at $69, which is a PE of 16.55 times. And that's on top of earnings per share of $3. Now, Richard's told us where he thinks the EPS is going, 359. And I think the PE ratio of 16.5 is quite reasonable, and so that sort of gives an indication in my mind as to where the stock could go. But more importantly, we see others in the market trading, on average at 23 times in this segment, and so I think there still is room for growth in the PE of Seprod. It's a company that showed tremendous growth in recent years, growing their 12-month trailing earnings to $3 billion. Yes, I did say $3 billion, and I can only think of 5 or 6 other companies in the market today that are earning more than $3 billion, and 80% of them are banks. Right. So you're not a bank, you're not a financial institution, you're a manufacturing and distribution company, so hats off to you for being in that category. Total market capitalization of $51 billion. Again, that's significant. Only 10 other companies in Jamaica get to that level of market cap, and 5 out of those 10 are again banks. So this is pretty impressive to have that level of market cap. On the next slide, Richard's spoken to it, folks, but again, nothing like numbers. He's actually, they've actually grown the net profit before discontinuing operations from $1.7 billion to $3.1 billion, and that is just phenomenal. It is, absolutely phenomenal. Yes, there's a $700 million one-off gain in there, but even outside of that, it's still significant growth in the profitability of the business. And they've now, increased shareholder value, total shareholders' equity to $16.9 billion, pretty much $17 billion. Really impressive results. And they've done this growth without over-leveraging the business, and you can see that because the finance costs are flat. So that's very impressive. So this type of growth is extremely impressive. And I think on the final slide that we have, it sort of just shows the growth in earnings on a quarterly basis. And you can really see, since getting rid of the sugar business, Richard, basically the last 4 quarters are just, phenomenal. Easily doing $600 million per quarter, $1.2 billion in your third quarter. So I presume that's where you had that one-off gain from selling property or something like that. So, just generally speaking, very, very impressive results. I really like Seprod a lot. I personally remember talking to you around about November 2018 when Facey was selling some of the shares. It was at $23.99. Right. And I remembered saying, I know I'm not going to be able to get this. I know it's going to be oversubscribed. And sure enough, I did not get a lot of it. Personally speaking, less than $1 million Jamaican dollars. I was quite disappointed. And here we are now, just a little bit more than 24 months later, and that stock price is up by more than 100%, up to $70, 140% growth in 30 months, 28 months, not bad at all. So congratulations, Richard.
We're actually very pleased. A number of our employees were given the option to buy stocks right through the organization. And a number of them picked it up. And I mean, so we're very pleased that so much of our employees are now owners in the company.
Absolutely.
That is.
And hopefully truly appreciating the value creation that's being done here. So I'd like to go into our first question that we have for you today. Richard, what has been the main driving force behind Seprod's performance to date?
Well, if I had to pick one thing, I'd say it's our people, because we're passionate about what we do. We're trying to add value every day, as I said before. And the focus, as I've stated, it's innovation, the export, because I mean, you can't, the way Jamaica is set up, right? The constant depreciation, etc. There's no way you can make the investment we have made and expect to get that return just to make it. We have to grow outside. We have to start earning our own foreign exchange, and so to protect ourselves against the volatility and supply issues. So I think those two things have been there, innovation, but it comes down to the fact that we're really passionate about what we do. I don't go to that company to work as an employee. I go there because it means something, and we are ambassadors for Jamaica. And we want to make Jamaica proud, and we want to make everybody proud.
I appreciate that. We heard your ambitions, your objective to try to grow exports by 35%. I'm a big fan of exporting. Obviously, you're the president of the Manufacturers and Export Association. But our biggest problem, one of our big problems in Jamaica, is we import 3.5 times as much as we export. We're big on import, but not so big on export. I'd be curious to appreciate some of the strategies you guys are looking to employ to do that, bearing in mind exports really are only about 7% of your sales today. So I would really like to see it growing, like you said.
Well, it's actually the fifth. So remember, our portfolio has imports and it has locally manufactured. So I'm counting the export as a percent of our locally manufactured side. Okay. So you take that's around 15%.
Okay, very good.
I mean, but not good enough.
Right.
Our target at a minimum is to get to 30% in 2 years and then take it from there.
Okay.
So that's there. But we see that, let's take the products that we're doing. Let's take the US and Canada. For a long time, companies in Jamaica focus on the Caribbean diaspora, the Jamaican diaspora, right? But the Hispanic diaspora is so much bigger, and they have so much similarity in taste. So there's 4 million Caribbean people in the US, but there are 55 million Hispanics. So a lot of products we're doing now, we're doing it to target the Hispanic population to grow our portfolio. So that's something very important. Amazon, we're very pleased about that. Suppligen is on Amazon.
Oh, excellent.
We are now doing over 1,000 cases per month on Amazon with Suppligen. We're now in the top 25 in the category that it is in. So those are very important things that we're doing. And we're also looking at co-manufacturing relationship. So we're not only producing our own brands, we're also going out and actively seeking partners that we can produce for them. So we have some great partnership. We have a wonderful partnership with Nestle, although we bought a factory from them. It's very important to have those global partners. We have other partners that we're there producing for them. And I think the pandemic is going to create a lot of opportunity for manufacturing because of the nearshore situation.
Right.
And I think that is creating an opportunity for Jamaica that we should not miss. And Seprod certainly is going to position itself to capitalize on those.
Okay, excellent. Second question we have programmed here is, how has the disruption in the global supply chain impacted raw material availability, and were you forced to adjust your prices?
Well, so it has interrupted us in 2 ways. First of all, it has increased your working capital requirement.
Right.
Because you have to carry a lot more inventory now to kind of give you a robustness in the supply chain.
So the lead chain is
the lead time. So I'm carrying probably 40% more inventory, raw material, than I would have carried before, but I have no choice.
Right.
Because the lead time on the supply, situation has become so disrupted. So that was the first part of the pandemic. The latter part of the pandemic has now seen massive escalation in prices: wheat price, sugar price, oil price. Everything has gone through the roof.
All of the commodities.
I mean, every night I get to look at Bloomberg, I'm like, oh my God. I mean, it's so what you're seeing now, right across the board in Jamaica, is that prices are being passed on to the consumers because you literally can't hold it. So the commodity price, the prices are going up for material, and also the cost to get them here has gone up.
Yes.
Put in context, a container from China, which was $1,500 last year, is now almost $8,000. And this is translated to everything in the country, because it's an import-based economy, right?
It is.
95% of the activity at the port of Kingston is related to import or empties. So that tells you what, yes, the prices are definitely going to have definitely moving.
So that implies we may have upward pressure on inflation going throughout the year, coupled with the devaluation that we've seen in the first 2 months alone.
So the inflation I like to speak about, I don't want to get in trouble with the BOJ.
Yeah.
I mean, it's food inflation.
Yes.
So food inflation, I see definitely going up. And we have a
Right.
natural inflation every year based on the seasonality of the food we produce anyway.
Right.
When you put on top of it the imported food items, I think food inflation will definitely increase.
Right. But you mentioned it, and I've heard others say it, shipping costs have also increased significantly.
And it's going to get worse because there's container shortage and there's shipping constraints. And remember that the world is recovering not at the same pace. So China's recovered a lot faster than everybody else. So there's a lot of demand on that side. The U.S. consumers, what we call pandemic commodities and the durables like household things and office and whatever, is also increasing because of the fiscal support, stimulus support they're having. So you have demand for the shipping. So it's actually going up.
I have no doubt. Next question we have here is, the group recently announced its e-commerce platform. Can you tell us a little bit more about this platform and the expected contribution to the group's revenue?
Right. So the beautiful thing about Seprod is that despite the result, we have so many opportunities to improve. I mean, that's great,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like having a football team and you're winning, it looks like we can do so much better.
Yes.
And so like the whole technology platform, is one of our sister companies, PBS, huge in the technology space. So working with the other companies in the Muslim group to actually bring technology to all aspects of our operation. So the e-commerce is just one way, is another channel to reach to our consumers and our customers. Wherever in the world, it eliminates geographies. I mean, and since the platform launched last week, I mean, quite a few of our purchases are coming from Jamaicans abroad, sending groceries for the families in St. Elizabeth and wherever. And and they're writing back very pleased. So that is part of what we're doing. E-commerce is one thing. The work from home is something that we actually started before the pandemic. Now it's forced us to accelerate.
Right.
And so it's changed the whole way we look at business. And I'm hoping at the end of it, for Jamaica, and certainly for Seprod, it will drive productivity in a real way. Not just talking about productivity, but actually manifesting itself in the way we do business and the results that we deliver.
Excellent. So we talked about e-commerce. What are some of the other projects in Seprod's pipeline?
So I'm well aware that my competitors are watching also.
Yes.
So what I'm going to tell them is that we're doing a lot of stuff that's going to be very exciting, that's going to be very pivotal to our business. I'm not going to tell them everything, but in that broad sense, innovation continues to be something. I mean, we're looking at learnings from the pandemic. People are looking for healthier options. I mean, so we're looking, for example, at nutraceuticals in our pipeline. We definitely are going along the healthy food, not to replace, but to add to what we have. I mean, we're actually working, with the universities, because these things take time. So that we're excited about. I mean, we spoke about technology. And of course, we look at acquisition opportunities. Internally, externally.
Right.
I mean, looking for the right opportunities. Everything we do must add value to our shareholders.
That makes sense. And then Seprod mentioned including healthier options in their portfolio of products. What healthy new products can we see entering the market in the next, say, 12 months?
Well, in the last 12 months, for example, we have entered the gluten-free space via cassava flour. So that was our first attempt at that, and that's doing pretty well. And we'll continue to try to work with projects that has backward linkages right back to our farmers. I mean, we believe that it makes no sense for a company in isolation to be performing well if the country is not coming along. We see ourselves as being having an obligation to help Jamaica to improve. And that can only happen if small businesses can start flourishing. They are the real engine of growth. And so we're trying to work with smaller manufacturers, the farmers, to find the products. And Jamaica will never be a low price producer. We can't be commodity. We can't compete on commodity price.
Right.
We have to compete on brand. And the fact that we have so many amazing products here, that if we produce them right, mark them right, we're fairly competitive in price, they will be consumed. The European market, underutilized trade agreements, the diaspora market for the Hispanics we speak about, those are the markets that we want to target going forward.
Absolutely. And Jamaica really does have such a strong brand. And I take your point about the size of the Jamaican diaspora, the Caribbean diaspora versus the Hispanic diaspora, and I think that's a great strategy. So we're going to move into some additional questions. I know we're going to have questions from social media. I also happen to have two questions from Chairman Christopher Berry, who asks, how has the fall off in the purchasing power due to COVID, job losses, and lockdowns affected food sales?
That's a very interesting question because you have to answer the question by looking at remittances.
Right.
Remittances has just blown up.
Hasn't fallen off.
I mean, there was a 40% increase in remittance in this January over last year, January.
Wow.
And I think what has happened, part of it is because there's no formalization of how the remittances get to Jamaica. You know, people can't travel, so they're going through the remittance houses, I guess.
The formal channel.
But formal channel, the fiscal stimulus package in the U.S., you know, allowing people to send more to their home. But the fact is, so much of Jamaican households are dependent on remittances. So I think that income has not abated,
right.
and it's allowed people to purchase. And the truth is that the economy has held up a lot better than any of us anticipated. Who could have thought that the tourism sector could be so decimated and Jamaica hasn't fallen down in complete chaos? It makes you wonder about, you know, I don't think we understand our economy. I don't think we understand the size of the underground economy. And I think this is an opportunity to learn more about what's happening here. So I think there is a food demand for basic food items, a lot of which we provide, you know, things like flour, milk, etc. So those have held up pretty well, despite the fact that the hotels are not there and the restaurants are struggling somewhat. So to date, it has held up pretty well. That's the answer to that question.
Good deal. And second one from Chairman Berry, he asks, have you been able to hold Jamaican dollar food prices and drugs despite the devaluation of the Jamaican dollar? Or are you pegging your prices and adjusting accordingly?
So as I mentioned before earlier, since the last part of last year into this year with the supply chain increase especially, we have been taking adjustment. In terms of the devaluation of the depreciation, we have tried to become a little bit more sophisticated in the way we work. I mean, we have a good finance team. I have a couple of great people. I have Damian Dodd, Al Ray Hull, and Perry right there in the team. And we're doing a lot of forward purchases. I mean, purchasing ahead, trying to project what we do. So it's we're trying to be more sophisticated, trying to manage our relationship with our suppliers. At the end of the day, if your consumers can't afford your product, you'll have no business.
Right.
So we have to find a way to balance it. But again, so much of the inputs are imported. I mean, more than 85% of our business is in U.S. dollars costs on the import. So we'll hold as much as we can, but clearly we are taking price when it reaches a certain point.
Yep, and again, it just speaks to, in my mind, the importance of the exchange rate and how that just naturally is going to flow through into inflation. I've got a question from our CEO, Gary Peart asks, when COVID subsides, will separate profit fall similar to the rise when COVID started? So there's a perception that your profit increased through the COVID pandemic, which it did. I think you explained two one-offs, but it's still a good question.
I don't think it's such a good question. I don't think Gary was listening to my presentation.
The question came before your presentation.
Okay. So, I mean, I've answered that question. I've put my results out there.
Yeah.
We don't expect to fall. We expect to keep adding value and to keep... we're going to make our shareholders and Jamaica proud.
Yes.
I mean, so we're going to deliver more value there, Gary.
Yes. That question came in before the presentation, and yes, you did a great job of explaining to us the $700 million one-off gain from the sale of property versus the $700 million non-continuing loss that you had with sugar that's gone.
So we had shown the normalized results.
Yes. From social media, we have a question that came in from Andrew Laidley, and he asks, as an international player in the food industry, has Separate witnessed instances where it's difficult sourcing critical raw material like wheat or flour?
All right, so great question, Andrew, my friend from TVJ. As I said before, there are definite challenges with the supply chain.
So you're carrying more inventory.
We have taken the decision for over a year now to carry a lot more inventory to the point where I've actually even rented additional warehouse space So we're carrying to ensure. We came out last year before everybody else in the pandemic and said, we're telling Jamaica, don't worry.
Right.
We're going to guarantee your supply. That was a big promise. And we had to deliver on that. I'd be in the street and somebody pull me and say, remember what you said,
Yes.
And we delivered on that. And we continue to say that I don't think Jamaica will have a supply issue. On the finished goods side, though, some of the imported items, we have less control over.
Right.
Those are happening. Factories in Brazil and Mexico, for example, where COVID has been particularly rampant, would have seen decline in their production. It affects everybody. But again, it's an opportunity for items to be replaced by local products.
Right.
I think Jamaica, again, I said we shouldn't miss this opportunity to reset our economy. I have been tremendously disappointed that we haven't seen a massive change to reset. I think these are opportunities, but we continue to be good on supply.
Good point, good point. Damali Morgan from Mayberry asks, what has the company done to circumvent these challenges?
I'm assuming he means the pandemic challenges.
Yeah, I assume so, and the logistics.
I think I answered quite a bit
So
of it.
you're carrying more inventory.
Yeah. We're carrying more inventory. We're using more technology, and we're managing cash flow is king. I mean,
Right.
PB Scott will tell you that. I mean, the one in every company I've been in, there are certain things to take away from. I mean, the one thing within this company with the chairman is that you learn to value cash flow. I mean, that's something he lives on, and I'm no a disciple of that.
Absolutely. You guys sell bully beef? Is that a big deal?
Corned beef?
Yes.
Yeah, corned beef. We sell sardine, Brunswick, tuna.
I only say that because I've been in a meeting with PB Scott, and he would just say, hey, I just sell bully beef. I'm not the finance expert. And I couldn't help but laugh because PB is a finance expert. Yeah. One more from Christopher Berry. He asks, what is your receivables like from Trinidad and Barbados? And are you getting US dollars out of those markets?
So Trinidad has been particularly difficult to U.S. companies. It's a very important market for us. I mean, Suppligen is actually an international brand. When we bought it from Nestle, it was an international brand. It's in 51 countries. And it has been in 51 countries. So yes, we have an office in Trinidad. We pay our taxes there and everything. So I mean, it's we're having difficulty getting US dollars to the market. The short answer to that question. But we believe that this is part of the risk of doing business.
Right.
It's a part of why you have a diversified portfolio and diversified. You look at different businesses, and there are challenges all around. So I mean, the answer to that question is yes, but we're going to persist. We think there's an important market.
Right.
And if we can't get our money out, we're just going to buy something else over there with it.
So he said Trinidad and Barbados. I don't imagine.
Yeah, I mean, lots of opportunities. So we were looking down there too. I mean, why not?
Yeah. Remember Mayberry when you're looking. We can certainly help you guys with that. We love the M&A work. So thanks for those questions, folks. I talked about prizes and giveaways earlier, and we do have some giveaways courtesy of Seprod, and I'd like to congratulate our winners from Instagram. They are Brittany Byfield, Godlike Rain, and Jeff Santa. I always struggle to read these names. Congratulations, guys. Congratulations. Okay, now I'd like to move into our segment where we typically explain our top picks. Great. This week we are looking at two that we've discussed before. It's earnings season's results are out, and we've got two companies in particular that we think we're doing very good. First one I'd like to look at is Carib Cement. Now, Carib Cement earnings are out. Their 12-month trailing earnings, one of only 7 others like you, $3.2 billion. That's very impressive. You can see what's going on with the stock price. Stock prices had a low of about $39 and a high of $70, currently trading at $68.50, which is a PE of 18.24 times. Again, in this market segment, average PE is about 23 times. In this segment, overall main market average is about 16.7 times. It's a great company. Next slide. And when you look in terms of profitability, 13% growth in revenues. Seprod did 18%. 70% growth in profit, and there are no one-offs here. This is just good growth. So really doing well. Remember, Carib Cement's a company 5, 6, 7 years ago that was really struggling, and they've really turned around the business. This is great profits that we're seeing here. It demonstrates again that the construction industry in Jamaica is doing well despite COVID. It's the one sector, Richard, that's held up.
It's 7% growth in the last quarter.
Absolutely, and Carib Cement, as long as infrastructure development's going on, we think Carib Cement's going to continue to do exceptionally well. And this shows you the growth in profits by quarter, and again, you can just see how great the last 2 quarters have been, right? 1.2 billion and 960 million respectively. So great results there. Carib Cement, keep up the great work. I'm expecting to see some dividends in the near future. They've managed to pay down about $6 billion in debt in the last year, generated $7 billion of free cash flows. Company's doing great. Really like them. Next one, Fosridge. And again, this is one that we've recommended in the past. It's had a low of $2.31. Today, up to a high of $5.11. Today, it's at $4.60. That's 18.4 times PE ratio in a junior market where the average is 23 times. Trailing earnings, $126 million. And on the next slide, I just want to explain that to you. This is 18% growth in profitability in the last year, growing from 106 million to 125 million on the back of 18% growth in revenues. Now, what I like about Fosridge, and we had Cecil Foster with us no less than 2 weeks ago, what we really like about Fosridge is they are poised for growth. So 18% growth in sales normally for this type of distribution company might translate into 50% growth in profit. I want to caution you, the reason why we're not seeing that 50% growth immediately is because they've just pumped in $200 million into increasing their asset base, growing the warehouse space, the distribution center we talked about. So there's huge growth in the asset base. So the finance costs have jumped by about $50 million, and the sales from those new ventures are yet to come. They mentioned the transformer repair business, and they mentioned expanding their PVC business. So we really think this business is going to continue to grow. On the next slide, you can see the increase in profitability quarterly. So again, you can see how the last 2 quarters are jumping, and this is one to watch, folks. I am convinced in the next year we're going to see sales and profitability growing even further. So Carib Cement, Fosridge, great results, guys. Look out for more. Now I'd like to look at top decliners and gainers in the market in the last week. And we're going to start with the top decliners, which unfortunately are iCreate, 19%, Siboney, 15%. I don't know what's going on with Siboney, that up and down. eFresh, 12%. GWest, roughly 10%. And Access Financial is down 8%. And we can see the microfinance area being a little bit more challenging. In terms of the gainers, we have CFF, who did exceptionally well. AMG, 14%, they did pretty well too. Express Catering Limited, up 12%. ISP, up 11%. And look at that, MJE, up 10.45%, closing today, I believe, at $8. Still below its NAV, but again, a company obviously we like and we think have great legs. Well, let's take a look at what's going on with FX. We've been watching this for a bit. Year to date, 6% devaluation from opening the year at 142.65. Now we're at 151.29. We actually had a peak at about 152, so it's good to see that tapering off a little bit. But still, we're a little concerned about 6% depreciation year to date. Obviously, I don't want to annualize it, but if we were to annualize it, it would imply 36% annualized deflation. Obviously, we don't expect that, but we really hope to see the government bringing that under control as best they can. We appreciate the whole inflation focus and management, but we have to also focus on the exchange rate. Richard, would you agree?
No, absolutely, but I think the exchange rating has now fallen into a pattern,
Yes.
quarterly pattern.
Yeah.
I mean, and at the end of the year, we're looking at like 6% more or less depreciation annually the last couple of years. But it goes a quarter. It starts a quarter, you have this depreciation, then it comes back dramatically at the end of quarter.
Yes.
So there's no
Cycle, so to speak.
It's this cycle, that's right.
Well,
we just have to be smart about it.
Yeah, I hope that's the case because I think the fear now is over the next 2 quarters. When is tourism going to start to come back? I think the expectation is the next quarter is not going to be particularly good. And so the flows may be under a little bit of pressure, but it's good to see remittances holding up.
But I think, though, that tourism is now been proven to be not a major influence on the foreign exchange market. I mean, it's, that's one of the things that we have to understand to this pandemic.
Yeah.
It's a foreign exchange earner.
A big earner.
But it's not necessarily here.
Yes.
So, I mean,
yes.
Yeah, I think the remittances is actually a bigger impact on our FX.
Yeah, well, it's encouraging, and again, I don't want to overemphasize watching the FX, but it is something we have to pay attention to because the inflation sort of
It's an import-led economy.
flows through, and we are, absolutely. Everything is imported. And again, we import 3.5 times as much as we export. Do you happen to have a top stock pick? And you can't choose Seprod,
No,
and you can't choose Carreras.
no. I mean, what I'd say is that I won't give a stop, but I'd say I'd look at the stuff that are trending. You know, when you look what's happening in the pandemic, people are looking for furniture is actually doing really well. You know, things like those. The food distribution companies are doing fairly well. You have seen good results from a number of the companies.
Absolutely.
So I mean, I'd like to see more people put more money in the manufacturing companies.
Yes.
And you know, with that type of base, because we need to be productive. We need to get the productive sector going and get some encouragement there. So I won't give a stock pick. I mean,
that's fine. That's fine. I like the sectors we focused on, and Chris Berry has just asked me to thank you for your presentation and for being with us today. We really appreciate it. I think it's been extremely informative, and we look forward to having you back in a year's time to see that EPS, to see that play out.
Well, if I don't deliver in a year's time, this EPS, I'll probably be applying for a job somewhere.
just come and interview with us before you change roles.
Thank you for the opportunity to do that.
But thanks for being with us, Richard. It's been a very informative session. I hope you guys out there have appreciated the journey. To our viewers, thank you all for being a part of our weekly investor forum. I would also like to thank our special guest, Richard, for his participation in today's investor briefing. We're certainly looking forward to having yet another insightful discussion in the upcoming week when we'll be featuring none other than Don Webby, CEO of Grace Kennedy. So be sure to follow us on social media and to stay up to date with our live streams. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mayberry Investments Limited. And thank you to all our viewers for tuning in today. Keep safe, and remember, wise investors, slow and steady wins the race. Goodbye.
From the farm to your kitchen. Introducing 100% natural Gold Seal cassava flour. Free yourself. Gluten-free is here.
Introducing Supergen Coffee in stores island-wide.